Today's video is gonna be a real simple build. We're gonna do a Stasis Warlock build. Now, Stasis Warlocks are amazing for endgame content. Their Stasis turrets allow you to lock down adds and champions with ease, so that's what we're doing today. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. Now, to start this build, let's go over what our Stasis Warlock is using in its class setup. The first thing we're going to look at is the Bleak Watcher. Press and hold the grenade button to convert your grenade into a stasis turret that fires slowing projectiles at nearby targets. Now, of course, this is the staple for any endgame Warlock build for Stasis. Of course, the turrets are just absolutely amazing, and with this season, with a particular mod we'll go over, it allows you to actually handle champions in a better way as well. Next, we have Glacial Harvest. Freezing targets create stasis shards around the frozen target. Higher tier combatants create more shards. This got a buff at the beginning of the season to reduce the cooldown per 6 shards from 15 down to 10 seconds, which means we can make more shards in any given activity, which we can then use to feed into our mods and our build to make it perform better. Whisper of Rhyme. Collecting a stasis shard grants a small amount of overshield which falls off after 10 seconds. Collecting additional shards adds to the overshield and refreshes the timer. Again, shard cooldown got reduced. We're going to be making more shards, therefore in which we're going to have a longer time with this overshield. Now, this isn't the void overshield that you get that gives you the 50% damage reduction. However, it does give you a little bit added protection so you don't have to worry about getting entirely one-shot in most high-end content. I really like this fragment for most of my stasis builds, so it's highly recommended to use. Whisper of Conduction. Nearby stasis shards track to your position, and it gives you a +10 to your resilience and a +10 to your intellect. Now, the whole point of Rhyme is to stay safe, so allowing our shards to come to us, not putting us out of position, is just going to add to that layer of safety, and the bonus to resilience to giving you a higher resistance value and the increase to intellect so you can get your super back faster is always nice to have as well. Whisper of Durance. Slow from your abilities last longer. For those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase. Now, our stasis turret is one of those abilities that lingers, so with Durance it's going to last longer. This also gives a +10 to our strength. We're not going to be throwing out our melee for any particular reason other than to just help deal with adds, so that is also a very nice added benefit to have from this particular fragment. And finally, we have Whisper of Shards. Shattering a stasis crystal temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate. Shattering additional stasis crystals increase the duration of this benefit. With this fragment, we're going to be pairing it with headstone weapons that we're going to go over later, so this way we can get more recharge rate to our grenades so we can just keep throwing out stasis turrets as well as cold snaps, because obviously we're going to be using Osmiomancy gloves, which comes with the exotic perk Fervid Cold Snap. Cold Snap grenades have an additional charge that recharges quicker on direct impact. The seeker spawn from your Cold Snap grenade travels further. Cold Snap grenades got a buff this season, allowing them to have better tracking. So what I like to do with this particular setup is I like to throw a stasis turret out, let it do its work, and then I just start throwing cold snaps, getting that recharge back. So this way, when my turret does eventually go away, I should have enough energy back so I could throw just another turret and keep repeating the process. The energy you get back from direct hits from your cold snap grenades is actually pretty nice, because every time it chains to another target, you'll get that energy back. So if you throw your cold snap into a group of thrall or screebs or whatever those high density low health target adds that they throw at us, every time that chains and hits something, you're going to get energy back. So sometimes you can come out of an engagement with a turret on the ground and still have 2 of your cold snap grenades in your pocket for the next encounter, which is amazing. I love this exotic for this particular reason, but of course, if you don't have Osmiomancy gloves, Eye of Another World should still perform pretty decent with this particular build. Now, let's talk about those headstone weapons. There are actually a fair bit of stasis weapons in the game now that roll with a headstone. This season, my go-tos have been the Disparity Pulse Rifle from this season, because it can roll headstone. It is a 4-round burst. Anti-barrier is also a mod we have for pulse rifles this season. Another particular weapon that I've actually been really enjoying is the new Vanguard SMG Prolonged Engagement. Now, this thing has a ton of perks, and I managed to get one with headstone, and it's amazing. Of course, we have overload for our SMG this season, so it pairs up quite nicely with this particular build. And for unstoppable, if you can have a good hand cannon with headstone, you can use that as well. I don't. The only one I have is the something new from the Guardian games, and I don't like using 120s in PvE. If they had a 140 stasis hand cannon, I would use that every single time. Honestly, they might have a 140 stasis hand cannon. I might just not own it or be completely oblivious to it. But honestly, anything with headstone is going to work. The syncopation pulse rifle, just anything with headstone will work really well with this build, as long as it can be used with your anti-champion mods. Now, for our armor mods that really throw this entire build together. On our helmet, we're running Harmonic Siphon to make orbs with the stasis weapons that we're running that come with headstone, and of course firepower to get grenade energy back when we throw one while charged with light, and this also applies to your stasis turrets as well. So we'll charge with light, throw your stasis turret, you've proc firepower, you get that energy back. For our arms, you can use whatever you want in these first two slots. I was using champion mods because I was running a strike, and I like to have champion mods to deal with said champions because many times that I've loaded into something and people just don't have champion mods, and you're stuck working on a champion for a lot longer than you need to. And I'd rather just make it easier because I have other pinnacles I need to go get done, or something else that I need to get done after that particular activity. I also put elemental shards on our arms, which will allow our stasis shards to count as elemental wells for our build, which comes in handy for firepower. And another mod we're going to look at later on, actually the next two mods we're going to look at, are going to benefit very highly just from this one mod. Now for our chest, I always highly recommend damage resistance mods for whatever you need them for. The mod off the artifact doesn't stack like it says it does, so that also leads to some problems. But if you need extra void resistance, throw it on. Sniper resistance, throw it on. Concussive dampener, melee, whatever you need, just throw on that damage resist mod because it's going to help you out just a little bit. And sometimes those mods can mean the difference between getting a one shot and being left at 1 HP. Now granted, in Grandmasters, one shot and 1 HP are basically the same thing because you're just going to get focused down by whatever's looking at you. But again, I always highly recommend those damage resistance mods. In our chest, I also put on Font of Wisdom. So now when we pick up a stasis shard that counts as an elemental well, our super, our intellect stat, is going to be boosted to 100. So we get that max rate cooldown for our Winter's Wrath, which again, inside of Grandmasters or pretty much any content, Winter's Wrath is an amazing super to deal with adds and just control a very large area at once in combination with our Bleak Watcher turrets. On our legs, I threw on Innervation because this way we get grenade energy when picking up orbs, and the whole point of this build is to be able to throw as many grenades as we want, as well as Absolution to double dip into grenade energy, as well as just all of our abilities at once when we pick up those wells. Elemental Charge, picking up an elemental well, or in our case, stasis shards will make us charge with light, so that's what's going to charge our firepower. Stasis shards now count as wells, which now can make us charge with light, which will now allow firepower to be able to do what firepower needs to do and give us our grenade energy back when we throw our turrets or our cold snap grenades. And finally, for our bond, we're going to be running Lord Kelvin's Basilisk, which will allow us to stun overload champions with our stasis grenade as well as our stasis turrets. Now, normally I wouldn't use stasis on champions as because when they freeze, they become unstunned. However, we use turrets to lock them down anyways, so we may as well double dip here. If we're already throwing turrets to lock down overload champions, we may as well stun them in the process. And with the turret constantly firing, as soon as it becomes unstunned and unfrozen, the turret will retarget the overload champion and stun them again while freezing them, allowing you and your teammates to just burst down whatever overload champion that is in your way. The other mod we're going to look at is Weaken Clear for that debuff on those champions and bosses to make them an easy cleanup for your team, allowing you to just hopefully breeze through most of the content with champions. I actually really like Weaken Clear. I use it all the time. I know it's kind of expensive at 5, but it is probably the most worth mod in this game right now because that debuff is very, very nice to be able to just throw out wherever. Now that is the end of the video. Now some things you can do to this build to even push it further is, of course, you can just run Elemental Shards, Elemental Charge, and 3 Firepower mods, as that's definitely going to get the job done for your stasis turrets. I, however, just like to have the utility of getting my super back faster, and some people would like to use Font of Might instead to get that bonus damage to their stasis weapons. All of those options are really, really good. Now, if you liked the video, please leave a like, comment things that you would do to this build down below, or if you've used this build. Of course, this is just a redo to a video I made almost a year ago, but added new things from this season, the buffs, the new weapons, all that good stuff. And please consider subscribing. I would like to get to 575 before Lightfall drops. Don't forget to check out those links down in the description. I'll put the dim link for the build there as well. And I hope everybody has a good week.